Yo, what's up, guys? Today, I'm going to share with you 5 big lessons that I've learned from recording and publishing 800 episodes of this podcast. I'm going to let you guys know a little bit of the self-doubts that I've went through. I'm also going to be giving you guys a little bit of those pivots that I had to make and those decisions I had to make along the way. It hasn't all been easy, and I'm going to share with you the good, the bad, and the ugly. So this way here, you can learn from this and understand that just because you're in business or just because you see other people that are successful doesn't mean it was always an easy road. So if you're interested in listening to that story, stick around because that's what I'm going to share in this show. Well, hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Amazing Seller Podcast. This is episode number 800, and I can't believe I just said that out loud. Wow, 800 episodes of this podcast. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And if I've met you in person over the years, I want to say thank you for being awesome, because a lot of people, when I meet them, they tell me their story. They tell me how this podcast has changed their life or has given them a new perspective. And I just want to say that means the world to me, because when I'm sitting here in my home studio here recording this, it's just me, a camera, a light, a laptop, and here we are. But I know that there's someone on the other end of this now because I've been able to meet you in person or just hear from you, whether that's through an email, a voicemail, or maybe just a direct message. But I just want to say thank you so much. To get to 800 episodes, man, it's a lot of work, but it was well worth it. And what I want to give you guys today is a little behind the scenes, a look of what I've been through, but also for you to understand that not everything is, perfect all the way through. You're going to have ups, you're going to have downs, you're going to have comparisons that you're going to be looking at and wondering if you're as good or if you should be doing this and reevaluating your why, like all of that stuff. I want to break it down for you guys. I want to give you guys also not just the 5 big lessons. I want to also give you these 15 things that I wrote down here in preparation for this episode so you can see exactly how it starts to evolve, how pivots happen, how you test something, and then you notice that, I don't know if I really like that, and then you have to make another shift. So there's not just one direct path in anything that we do. All right, so let me get to it. All right, and again, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you. And if you've left a review or feedback on iTunes or a comment on YouTube, thank you so much. It means the world. And if you haven't done that, if you could do that, that would be amazing, because I read each and every one of them. And it does mean a lot to know that that you are tuning in, but then also that you can tell me a little bit more about yourself. All right, so let's kind of get to it. All right. Now, today I could give you numbers and we can, talk about all of the things that makes a podcast successful. But I've been in business long enough that I know it's not just about the numbers. It's about the relationships. It's about the community. It's about the tribe that you've built. I know that. I've been doing this a long time. But sometimes people are all like, they're in awe with the numbers. And so I can look at the numbers and I can compare myself to others that have smaller numbers and think that I'm more successful. I don't believe in that. All I believe in is hearing from people like you, knowing that I have people coming from all over the world to be at one of my events, whatever. Like, that's really what shows what I'm doing here. And there's a blog post out there. I forget who wrote it, but it's called The True 1000 Fans. And I truly believe in that, because if you have 1,000 true fans or 1,000 people that are paying attention to you or your brand, I'm telling you right now, you can pretty much write your own check. All right. And you can do it from showing up. You can do it or do business from a place of integrity. And you can know that what you're doing matters. And whatever business or brand you're in, understand that you're probably impacting someone in some way. And I don't care if it's selling yarn to someone who knits, you're giving them a good product so they can do something they enjoy. Or maybe you help someone solve a problem. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it. It's not just about selling products or making money. All right. So let me get into it. I've got some notes here. All right. So again, why am I sharing this with you? Well, we did cross a milestone. We did cross 15 million downloads if we want to go off of numbers, right? Again, that shows me a metric that yes, it's being downloaded a lot and yes, people are tuning in, but I'm not going to compare that to someone like Tim Ferriss who gets, hundreds of thousands per month, maybe millions per month, who knows? So I'm not comparing to that, but it does give me a little bit of a gauge to know that we're out there and we're reaching a lot of people. But the reason why I wanted to share this with you is because the point of doing this all, right, is for me to make an impact, right? And for me to make an impact means that you have to actually do something. And that is why I also wrote the book, which is a whole nother part I'm going to talk about here, because this, I never, ever imagined in a million years that I would be able to do this, ever. All right. And if you're listening to this, you can't see it, but I'm holding my hardcover copy here of the book in my hand. If you're watching this on YouTube, you get to see this. But the book is The Take Action Effect. And it really does go hand in hand with this, this past 5 years, 800 episodes, is I have been showing up consistently and committing to this podcast, committing to my listeners because, well, I took action. And I knew that the effects from that would probably yield a result on the other end, meaning I'm going to be able to impact more people, but I knew that money would follow somewhere, somehow. But this is the God's honest truth too, guys. I never once, when I first started this podcast, thought about how I was going to generate money. I didn't even think of it at that time. The only thing I was looking to do was to put out content, get people to listen, to buy into my methodology, my thought process, and that's actually evolved quite a bit, and then get around people that are like-minded. And then I knew that it would show itself, right? And it did. And I'll get to that as far as how it started to make some money, right? But the Take Action Effect is the root of everything that I do. This will be with me for the rest of my life. This is something I also, another one of my passion projects, I want to start speaking more to an audience that would benefit from this, not just a business crowd either. So that's another thing that's on my bucket list. All right, so a lot's happened, but let me just kind of take you back to the beginning of when this whole thing kind of started. So back in 2014 and 15, I was still running our photography business, not taking pictures anymore, but we were doing it digitally online. We were helping people with their photography businesses, but we started our brick and mortar years ago, and that's what led us there. You see, Take Action Effect, boom, boom, see how it works? And so then we started to teach online, and I started to teach after I taught myself Photoshop. Look at that thing, right? This book here is massive. Photoshop 6 Bible. I didn't even like to read at the time. Still, I struggle with it. But when I'm interested in something, I'll read, front to back. But that book opened my eyes and also taught me a skill. And in that skill, I built that business in photography and teaching people how to create their own digital sets, their own restorations, their own templates for their own businesses, things like that. But I also was starting to dabble in the e-commerce space. I started to sell things on eBay. And for those of you that know my story, it's also in the book. I sold a bridge one time, a little cedar bridge. And my wife and I were looking for a photo prop, and we found that on eBay because we were looking for it. But we also noticed they were selling for $130. But my wife had seen one in a local store for like $30. So my wife was like, well, let's try to sell one on eBay and see what happens. Everyone says you can sell stuff on eBay. And we did that. It worked. We went back with our minivan. We loaded it up and we sold like another 20 some bridges within the next 2 weeks. It was crazy. We were back and forth to FedEx and all that. So a whole story. If you want to know the whole story, you can grab the book, which, oh, by the way, I should probably give a little shameless plug here. TakeActionEffect.com. It is now available in hardcover, soft cover, or paperback, also Kindle, and also audiobook. So if you're interested, grab a copy. I'd love to hear what you think. But so what that did is it opened my eyes to e-commerce. And then I started hearing about this Amazon thing. So then I said to my wife, I go, maybe we should try to just launch a product. And maybe we'll just go ahead and see if we can find something that's selling already and see if we can do a similar thing there. And so we did, and we had pretty good success, not that far along. And I think it was 90 days, we had generated $45,000, 45,000 ish, 50,000 ish. And then it went to 120,000, and then it went to 300,000. So it was like opening my eyes, because at that time I was selling other things on eBay too. I was selling these projectors that I was building for my film transfer business, which is a whole nother story, which again is in the book. But there, I sold like over $100,000 in these projectors that I was building, and I was selling them on eBay. And from there, that opened my eyes to that. But then Amazon, after I was generating money through Amazon, it was a lot easier. So I'm like, why don't I just do more of this? All right. So that's where I got like my aha moment. And then I decided to launch a podcast, but I wasn't going to. Self-doubt started creeping in because I started 2 other podcasts, which didn't do anything. They just weren't targeted enough. I wasn't as passionate about it. So I kind of bailed on them early. To be honest with you, I gave up on them. I didn't put in the time. I didn't put in the effort. But they were also a little broad. Okay. So then I said, you know what? Maybe what I'll do is I'll start a podcast and I'll just talk about my journey. I'll share with people my journey. And I wasn't going to do it. My wife gave me a little nudge, which she always does. And she's usually right. And I'm so glad I listened to her because she said, why don't you just record like 20 episodes, do it for 20 weeks and see what happens. And I did that, and it's been amazing. And here we are 800 episodes later. So again, never listen to that self-doubt thing in your head, because a lot of times it's telling you to do something because you're afraid. And sometimes you got to face that fear. All right. Because you don't know what's on the other end. And what's the worst that's going to happen? No one listens. Okay. So I wasted some time recording. Right. So then what happens is I launched the podcast. After I launched a few products, I started having some success. So I started to document that. And by this time, I had no idea how I was going to monetize. The podcast was earning me no money at the time. Right. And so the second thing is after the podcast started gaining traction, I started to be known in this industry as the Amazon guy. Right. And at first I thought that was kind of cool, but I'm kind of like, oh boy, that's kind of a lot of pressure. Like the Amazon guy, like I know about Amazon, but I'm not like an expert, right? I'm still learning myself. So, you know, I dealt with it and I felt okay about it, but I kind of didn't like it. So I started struggling with this a little bit. But then moving on, I kept selling my own products on Amazon, but started to also realize that there was a shift happening. Plus I heard people were finding my products that I was selling. And then I started getting nervous. I'm like, well, then people they're going to knock them off, or, they're going to, want to take them down or put negative reviews because they don't like me. So I started having all of these thoughts, which might not have been true, but I started having these thoughts. But I also, again, I noticed that the market started shifting, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and figure this thing out, keep doing what I'm doing, right? And at this time, I started to use some tools. I started to mention some tools. And the first tool I ever mentioned was Jungle Scout. Good friend of mine, Greg Mercer, who created that. I was one of the beta testers of the extension that was built. And that was my first affiliate sale, and it was episode 56. I'll never forget that. And I made my first sale, my first cup of coffee, as you guys have heard me say. And if you want to check out Jungle Scout, here's how it works. Head over to theamazingseller.com/JS, and you can get a deal over there. I only promote, and you'll notice this too, I only promote products that I use and that I believe in, and I know the founders and all of that. I've turned away a lot of deals because I don't know the company. And one I can think of off the top of my head, if I would have went with that deal, it would have came back to bite me because they went out of business and people were mad. All right. So again, got to listen to your gut. And you got to definitely do that. All right. So moving on, because I got a lot of points here and I want to cover all these in this show. So again, things were changing. They were starting to evolve. I was then mentioning some tools. So I started to produce some revenue through the podcast. I'm like, okay, this is starting to work a little bit. I'm not trying hard. I'm not pushing anything hard. I'm just mentioning things lightly, and it's happening. But I've done this in other businesses, and it's always come back to building the audience, getting them to really know, like, and trust you genuinely, like not just making it up, not being fake. You can't fake it, right? So you just need to be genuine, and then that started to pay off. Then I started having people say, Scott, will you show me like just the steps? Will you hold my hand? I go, well, it's on the podcast. You can just go to the podcast and listen. And they're like, no, I want you to show me. I want you to take me by the hand. I want you to, I want to look over your shoulder as you're looking at your computer. And I want you to go through the brainstorming of products and all this stuff. So I started to say to myself, you know what, maybe, just maybe I will launch a product. But the only way I'm going to do it is if I know that people are going to buy it. I'm not just going to go spend 4 or 5 weeks. I've done that before. Again, a lesson learned on another business. I created a course. I thought it was amazing. I put it out there to my audience and they're like, yeah, we don't really need that. And I spent all that time and it was crickets, right? So I said, I'm never going to do that again. So again, I learned from that. So here's another point for you guys. You want to always validate your market. You always want to validate your products or your product ideas. All right. And again, if you're selling physical products, that's going to Amazon maybe and looking at the search for that and the sales for that, or maybe it's looking at Google Trends. Like there's ways to validate it. And here would probably be a good time to mention this here, which is the playbook. And this here will get you everything you need to validate and to build out that brand. So it's Brand Creators, the playbook, and you can find that by heading over to brandcreatorsbook.com. All right, so validating is really, really important. So then I said, you know what, maybe I'll do this. But I was also talking a lot with this guy who you guys might know now. His name is Chris Schaefer, and him and I were friends in a Facebook group. Basically at the same type of level of selling. He was actually helping people sell their products. He was like a consultant. And so I said to him, I go, I'm thinking about doing this course. I would need some help maybe with support or tech stuff, or maybe the flat file or any of that stuff that I'm not really good with. Would you be willing to help me with that? And he says, yeah, I'd love to. So him and I did a webinar, and I believe it was on tax day back in 2015, I believe, 2016, somewhere in there. And we basically did a webinar. I basically broke everything down. It was a workshop, really. And I just basically told everyone like what I was doing. And this is what I'm thinking about doing for a training. If you are interested, I'm going to basically open it up. It's not even recorded yet. It's not even available yet, but here's an outline of what I'm going to be teaching. If you're interested, it's going to be $497. And the first 25 people, that's who's I'm going to accept in. If I get 25 people, I'll build it, right? Within a minute, maybe a minute 10, we had 25 spots sold and we had people saying, I want to buy. And we cut it off at 25, actually 27, because we couldn't shut the shopping cart off in time. So we just said, you know what, we'll take 27. And we did that and it worked great, right? So basically, number one, I had a beta group in there. They were helping me build the training so I could get their questions answered. I knew their sticking points, and they helped fund me building it, right? And I've done every single course, every single training that exact way, all right? So you always want to validate first. And I don't mean validate by saying like, who here would buy something if I make something? And then they all go, yeah, I would, I love you. And then you're like, okay, cool. And then you build it, and then you come back, you go, all right, I'm ready, I got it. And they're like, maybe next week, I'm going to wait till I get paid next week or something. No, I want to know with a credit card swipe, right? That's how you know if someone's really serious. All right. They got skin in the game. They're also more committed and all that stuff. But anyway, moving on. So we launched what we called the Private Label Classroom. And we did that for probably 3 years because that's where I was. That's where I was in the trenches. But then as things started to really become obvious to me, and I've seen this before with Google Slaps and other platform slaps, I'm like, things are changing. And I want to be able to not just go down this road. All right. So 2 things happened here. Number one, I decided I wasn't going to be the Amazon guy anymore as much as people were still saying that I was. I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be someone that was known as building brands. All right. So as I was doing this transition, I also, and here's a funny story for you, I started a brand with a partner. All right. And this happened just by chance. Actually, long story short is my wife was looking for a place to live here in North Carolina, South Carolina area, and read a blog post that someone posted. And it just happened to be this lady. My wife reached out to her, and then she said, hey, if you want any more information, let me know. And my wife said, yeah, I'd like this, about this area, about this school, whatever. And she said, well, if you're ever down here, let me know. And my husband and you can meet up, and we can meet up and have dinner. So we did that. And again, long story short, we ended up moving here because of her recommendation. We become really good friends and we're business partners right now. Okay. And that happened because of, that blog post that she wrote, which also makes me say, see, if you put out content, you never know where that's going to lead. All right. That led us to her, which then led us to our house, which led me to a brand. You see what I'm doing here? The take action effect. All right. So that's what we're talking about, right? So we started this brand. which was awesome and is still going well. Then we started to hold these in-person workshops with about 25 to 30 people. Those were awesome. Those were amazing. And I love doing them. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. And then from there, we moved on. We noticed the change was still happening. And we decided, myself and Chris Schaefer, that we were going to do this pivot. We were going to not be just Amazon focused. We were going to be talking about brand building. We were going to be talking about traffic. We were going to be talking about monetizing in other ways, other streams of revenue, other ways to generate traffic, not what everyone else was doing, right? So the reason why we did this, because that's what we believed in. We loved it when everything was the way it was, but then it started changing. So now we have to change, even though we knew that we were still leaving a lot of money on the table, because I could have led people down that road. But when you're leading people, you need to also understand you feel a sense of responsibility, okay? And that's what I felt. So if I had a friend of mine that was asking me, I'd be like, dude, I wouldn't go over there and just play in that sandbox. I would play in that sandbox, but not the only sandbox. I'd prepare myself and really prep the business for external traffic, for external revenue. So again, that's where the pivot came from. And again, had some resistance because I knew that, there was still a lot of people, preaching that, go on Amazon, find a product, you're going to be a millionaire. And I'm like, no. So I needed to make a stand, right? I needed to make a stand for myself so I could sleep at night, but also it's what I believed in. Okay. So again, we noticed the change. We made that pivot. And then this was a big one. I started saying to myself, I really love doing those workshops. I really want to spend more time intimately with people. So maybe what I'll do is a high-level mastermind. Now, I was part of a couple of masterminds, which I paid between $25,000 and $35,000, and they are worth it when you have the right group, right? And the right leader in a sense. But sometimes it's not for everyone, right? But I'm like, you know what? I like this one, but I don't like the parts of this one. Man, if I can make a hybrid of this would be amazing. It'd be so rewarding. I'd be able to hang out with 10 people every single time we meet, which would be 3 times a year. We'll get on a call every month. And I'll be able to help them build their businesses without actually owning the business. It'd be awesome. And so I said, you know what? Let's go ahead and try this. Let's go ahead and do it. So we did. And it was what we called the Inner Circle. You might have heard me talk about it in the past. So we did it. It was a 12-month commitment. It was $25,000, and we had 10 people sign up. And then we had 2 people drop out. And you probably want to hear about that, right? Well, not to get into too much of the details, but we could tell right away that it probably wasn't a right fit. And I blamed myself for not seeing that early enough. I did a screening call after it got through like 2 applications and another phone call with someone else on my team. But then it would come to me and I would be the final say. And there was something that I thought it would work, but I wasn't sure. But I was like, you know what? They're telling me what I want to hear. Let's just do it, right? And I'm not going to point blame on anyone. I might just not have been the right fit. But long story short on this is I noticed that, you know what? This isn't for everyone. But I also noticed this is a lot of responsibility, Scott. Like, man, people paid a lot of money to be in this group. Yes, you're giving them more of your time than anyone else. There's consultants that are charging $50,000, $100,000. And to me, yes, that's a lot of money. And to a lot of you, it's a lot of money. But also, I literally gave my cell phone. I gave a Voxer line. Like, you could call me anytime. You could communicate with me anytime. Now, it's on you to communicate with me if you need me, but it was there. But what I realized, and again, this is a big thing you need to understand. You got to try things to see what you like and what you don't like. And it just didn't feel right to me. And what I mean by that is it was a great group. And the people in there are still close friends of mine. I mean, we became really, really good friends, and I'm still here if they need me, right? Like if they need to reach out to me, I'm here, right? But I did notice that a 12-month commitment for them, for me, it's just a lot to think through, right? There's a lot of attachment. There's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of me feeling like they need to take action in order to get results. And how am I going to keep lighting a fire? And so I just found that it just wasn't for me at this time. Now, I'm not saying it won't be in the future, but for this time, I'm going to pause on it, right? I'm just calling a timeout. We fulfilled the year. It was awesome. We did have a great group, like I said, but it was one of those things that I was like, I'm not sure I want to do that again next year, right? Now, while this was happening too, we had other things that were going on, and I'll talk about that here and you'll see why. So then while this is going on, and I actually announced this in the Inner Circle, I decided to put on my first ever conference. All right. And I never in a million years thought that I would ever have my own conference, right? With let alone 50 people, but 200 people, right? Like that's a huge task. It's a huge responsibility. And yeah, it was just crazy. But decided to do it after Kevin Sanderson, little shout out to Kevin, who approached me about doing one because he had experience in events and he thought that it would be amazing. And I said, well, do some math for me. Let me see if this makes sense and we'll do it. And just to let you know, events are not a moneymaker, by the way. You can make a lot more money just in your online business doing other things than to bring a whole bunch of people to an event. But to me, it was more about the community. It was more about getting to meet people in person and really getting that closeness. And also, I wanted to create an event that I didn't feel was out there, which is more about not just e-commerce, but also building a brand and marketing and traffic generation and revenue streams, diversification, like all of that stuff. That's what I wanted to bring into the mix. And so we created something called Brand Accelerator Live. And again, it was awesome. It was amazing. And it made me realize this is what I want to do. Like, I want to be around people. I don't want to just necessarily do this. This is good. But if you and I are together, man, it's just magic. I love it. And that's what I want to do more of. And that really made me realize moving forward that that's what I want to do. But see, I tried it. I got through it. I was a nervous wreck, by the way, guys, like going through this thing, like, holy cow, like I'm on the hook for over $100,000 if this thing doesn't sell, if I don't fill the seats, if I don't get the room block done. Like there's a whole bunch that goes into it that's really scary. But I did it, right? And now I'm like, that felt good. And people had a great time and the event was amazing. But I learned from it. So moving on. Then I decided while this was going, and again, I'm kind of leading this up as the event was over, but it wasn't. While the event was being promoted and everything, and I wanted 200 people to show up, I also decided to write a book. And it was my secret little project that no one knew about, and I was going to reveal at Brand Accelerator Live, and there it is. I did it, right? But that I was working on this behind the scenes, which is a whole nother thing. And then moving through to the next thing, another big thing. I decided, you know what? I had this Inner Circle thing. I need a place to bring people, a nice place. So I rented an Airbnb on the lake. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm spending a lot of money here. Why don't I just maybe invest in my own property and then turn it into an Airbnb? But Scott, you don't know anything about an Airbnb. But I learned, and I actually found a guy here that's doing it and he manages it. And I just basically followed his lead and now I own an Airbnb, right? So that happened also. So we had the Inner Circle, we had, the event, we had the book writing, we had Airbnb going on. I had a lot, right? Plus 3 episodes of the podcast every single week. We had some videos going out. We had Facebook Lives going out. We had a whole bunch of stuff. Scott's running 100 miles an hour. And then Scott starts to be like, whoa, what the heck are we doing? Right? I'm talking to myself, And so that's when I realized the minute we got done with Brand Accelerator Live, everything became crystal clear. I'm like, all right, Scott, we're going to strip things back. We're going to only focus on things that really light you up and that you genuinely enjoy, right? And that's what I decided to do. So what does that look like today? Well, the podcast isn't going anywhere. I love doing this. This is amazing. I love connecting with people. I love sharing my message, my thoughts, and whoever wants to listen can listen. And that just means a lot, right? That people are listening. So that's there. The next thing is I really loved the event, the live event. So I'm like, let's make that a yearly thing. So Brand Accelerator Live, again, it's not Amazon Accelerator, it's Brand Accelerator Live, right? How to build a brand successfully, how to grow a brand, how to level up your brand, all of that, right? And so that was that. And then I said, you know what? After the event, people were like, well, Scott, is there anything that we can do in the meantime? Is there any trainings that you have? Is there anything for list building? Is there anything for this? And I'm like, there isn't anymore. I kind of took my courses and kind of just shut them down for a while and was figuring out what I was going to do next. And I said, maybe what I'll do is this way here I can connect on a regular basis and it can be more dynamic learning. I'll create something that we have where every month we get together, or maybe every other week. And that's what we call now Brand Creators Academy. And that there has been absolutely amazing because it's an extension of our live event. So you see what I did there? I simplified it. No more courses. All we have is Brand Creators Academy. We only open it up 4 times a year. We also have Brand Accelerator Live, which then these people can go to the live event and really community, right? And then we get to be able to celebrate together. We get to spotlight members, all of that stuff. And that's all I got to focus on. So we don't have all of these other things that I'm focusing on. And then the only other thing that I added in, which I really love, and I just finished one up, is what I'm calling our Lake House Master Shops. This is where we do a mastermind/workshop for 2 days. And this last one, we kept it really small. We had 2 businesses with 2 business partners each. And we're going to limit them to only 3 or 4 people max. And I'm going to do like 4 of those a year. But I love that. It was so intimate. It was so amazing, right? So again, if you are interested in attending our live event, Brand Accelerator Live, then I would recommend going to brandacceleratorlive.com. You can see the sizzle reel from last year, which was amazing. You can hear what people had to say about it. And I would love to see you there if you're interested in building your brand. All right. So that's that, right? So we decided to simplify, and that's where Brand Creators Academy came in. Oh, and by the way, Brand Creators Academy, depending on when you're listening to this, isn't open right now, but it will be open on April 6th. 2020, and we're going to be open for 5 days. We only open for 5 days, then we can get back to work after we open. And that way there's only a few promotions for that every single year. So again, if you're interested, head over to brandcreators.com and you can get on the wait list there. Or if you're going there through April 6th, that week, then it will be open. So definitely check that out. All right, so moving on. So then we get to, where we are right now. And at the end, after the dust had settled and everything was kind of done, I said, you know what? I need to revisit the why. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Scott, you're running yourself ragged. You're running in 100 different directions. You need to slow down, right? You need to figure out what your why is, right? And you got to go back to it. I knew the why before I started, but then all of a sudden opportunities started to come my way. Things that I wanted to do started to happen. And then I didn't realize that I didn't really enjoy it as much as I thought I was, right? So these things are going to happen no matter where you are in your business. All right. So I revisited my why, and that's where I said, listen, we got to simplify. I talked to my wife. I said, we got to simplify and we got to go back to the basics of what really lights me up. What do I want to do and who do I want to serve? And that's really what we did. And part of that is the brand that my partner and I have been building. And I haven't announced this yet, but I'm going to announce it right here. We've actually decided to sell that brand. And it's actually premature. I wanted to wait. She wanted to wait too, but between her and I, it was just to the point where we just weren't fulfilled with it. It was becoming more work than it was worth. It will be a great business for someone else. But we wanted to get it to a 7-figure exit. We fell short of that. We just over $500,000 is what we are in at right now. We had 4 offers within 2 days. We had 150 inquirers. And that's because it's really well diversified. But like I said, I haven't mentioned that anywhere else but here today. And we're under LOI right now. But fingers crossed that everything goes well. And I'm hoping that the person that is buying it does it justice and grows it because there's a ton of potential there. It's just our focus has not been on that brand, or it can't be moving forward. We have other interests that we want to pursue. So anyway, so I wanted to kind of throw that out there. So you probably want to know the 5 big lessons. All right, Scott, you talked a lot about all these different things that happened, and hopefully you guys got value from that alone. But the core, the big 5, let me just kind of distill this down for you. This is going to be quick. Number 1, always start with your why, and do not let money be part of that why, right? You can think about what you need to make, but you need to also think about what is going to get you excited. Now, some people would say, well, Scott, what if I'm not excited about the market I'm in? That's okay. If you're excited about building something and watching it grow, then that's fine. There's a brand right now we're building in Brand Creators Academy. Brand new. I say brand new. It's under a year old. And I just enjoy looking at the analytics of the growth. I love building the team that's helping to build out the content. All of that stuff I'll be doing till the day I die. I love it. It's a challenge to me, and I just love building things, right? That's a passion of mine. If your passion is in, catching snakes, well, maybe that's your thing, right? And I don't even know if that's a thing, but You see what I'm saying, right? But I do believe if you can find something, whether it's your passion to grow something and build something and then learn that skill set and then tap into something that's passionate for you, then that's fine. Or if you start with something passionate, you're going to get yourself out of bed. But if you start with something with only money in mind, you'll probably give up too soon. It's just the reality. People give up way too soon if they don't see the reward. And if you're saying to yourself, I'm going to start this business today, and in 3 months, I need to be making $1,000 a month, you're going to be disappointed. All right. This is not a get rich quick thing. It's not. It's a long game. All right. All right. So that's number one. Always start with your why, not money. Number two, be open to adapt and change. This is what we call a pivot. All right. It's going to happen. I will tell you that right now. It is going to happen. It will happen. All right. You just have to be willing to adapt and change because platforms will change. Channels will change. You will change. All right. As you grow. All right. Number three, don't compare yourself to others. Okay. And do not change for others. Okay. In this space of internet marketing, in business online and all that stuff, I could compare myself to other gurus out there. And I don't consider myself a guru, by the way, right? But some people do. I don't compare myself to them because I don't want to be going in that direction. There's some people that I do look up to and I go, you know what? They're doing it right. One of them being Pat Flynn, okay? Or Michael Hyatt, right? They're doing it in a way of integrity, okay? And that's what I want to do. I'm not going to try to push you to something just because I want you to buy something. That's not what I'm ever going to do, ever, okay? So just never compromise that and do not compare. Number four, the core principles for building a business, a brand never change, but the platforms will. I've been doing this a long time, guys. We're talking over 18 years, brick and mortar, online, various businesses. It always comes down to the core. And that is you need to identify the market. You need to be able to get attention in that market. You need to be able to generate traffic. You need to build know, like, and trust. And you need to understand what they want and what they need. And then you got to be able to deliver it to them. It's literally that simple. I break it down in this book, okay, which is my story woven in with all the lessons and the take action effects so you can adapt that. And then this here, and this can be found at brandcreatorsbook.com. This is the 6-part process for building a brand. Everything is in there. If you're listening to this, you heard the pages, but you didn't see it. brandcreatorsbook.com. Everything there is the same to me that it will be. It's just the channels will change. They will. There'll be a new channel. There's TikTok now is the hot thing, right? I mean, not for us necessarily, but it's the next big thing, right? Snapchat was, now not so much, at least for our crowd. You get what I'm saying, right? Things are going to change. All right, number 5, keep things simple and always, always, always remember your why, period. All right? Always, always remember your why and keep it simple. A lot of times, if you're going in 100 different directions, you're chasing shiny objects because it looks fun. It looks attractive, right? And we all do that. But if it comes down to it, you got to look and see what is the 20% that's driving my results. And that's what you got to focus on. And that's what you need to do is simplify and just always remember your why. All right. So hopefully you found this valuable. Once again, I just want to thank you and just say I appreciate you for listening, for watching, for being part of our community. And if you are in Brand Creators Academy, you guys are awesome. And if you're not, I would love to see you inside there at some point when it's right for you. Okay. When it's right for you, because if you're not ready to start taking action on a daily and a weekly basis, then it's probably not for you. Any of the members in there, I'll tell you, it's all about action and taking action. So do me a quick favor though. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, do that. If you're listening to this on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever platform, if you haven't left a review yet or feedback, please do that. Let me know, how has the podcast helped you in one way, shape, or form? I read every single one, and I look forward to reading yours. All right, so guys, that's it. Thank you for celebrating the 800th episode of the Amazing Seller Podcast Show. I so appreciate each and every one of you. And again, I just want to say thank you. And last but not least, we got to wrap this thing up like we always do. Remember, guys, I'm here for you. I believe in you, and I am rooting for you. But you have to, come on, say it with me, say it loud, say it proud, take action. Have an awesome, amazing day, and I'll see you right back here on the next episode. Now go get them.